All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is our first I-25 S-curve area study area or public meeting. My name is Francine Pacheco, and I'm going to facilitate our presentation this evening along with our Q&A session. After our Q&A session, we will break out into our open house format that we were just in. And I want to say that we really appreciate all of you coming out tonight and taking the time to give us your valuable input, but we also recognize that you're taking time away from your family and your friends to be here with us, and we recognize that and we are really appreciative of that. We anticipate our presentation will run about 30 minutes, and then we will open it up for questions. During the Q&A session, we ask anyone with a question to use the microphone. Again, it'll be over here to my left. So once again, sign up with Miss Katie. She will assign you a number, and then when we open it up, go ahead and you form a line, or as your number is called, then you can use that microphone. We do ask that you keep your questions to about 1 minute. If you do not want to answer your questions publicly, rest assured that is fine. We will be taking questions. Just find one of our study team members in the open house session, and we will be able to answer those questions. You may also be able to submit a question via our website or our hotline, and we will make sure that you have all the contact information that you need to submit a question. Again, I will refer you to our hotline and our email, but also I want to let you know that this presentation is being recorded, and it will be posted on our website after tonight. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Tonight, we will be giving you an overview of the study and the process, the community that we're working, a context of the community that we're working in. Then we're going to discuss the purpose and need, which is really the reason that we are doing this study. And we want to spend some time talking about the universe of ideas and all the ideas that we have that are currently on the table at this stage. Again, we will walk you through step by step of how to leave a public comment and also how to stay engaged through the entirety of the study, and then we will open it up to your questions. Before we get started, I do want to take a quick moment to introduce our presenters. Like I mentioned earlier, my name is Francine Pacheco, and I will be facilitating this. I am the public involvement lead, and I will also be facilitating the Q&A session. Next, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Summer Herrera.
Thanks, Francine. My name is Summer Herrera. I'm the project development engineer from NMDOT working on this study with our consulting engineer.
Next, we're going to go ahead with Nicole.
So my name is Nicole Tolley. I'm the consultant environmental lead for the study, and I look forward to hearing your insights tonight.
And now we have Mike Worrell.
Good evening. My name is Mike Worrell. Look forward to getting to know each of you over the course of this. I'm the project manager for the consultant team.
Next, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Alonzo.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alonso Martinez. Thank you all for showing up for this. We're really excited to share where we are today with this study.
Perfect, thank you. Let's go ahead and get started, and I'm going to hand things back over to Summer, and she can get us kicked off with the study overview and process.
As you can see on the map, we're studying the I-25 corridor between Avenida Cesar Chavez and Lomas Boulevard. This includes the interstate and surface streets. We are considering the context of the surrounding area. The study area shown on the map is wider than the actual footprint of any potential project. Nicole will discuss what we're looking at as it relates to the environment a bit later. So how did we get to this Phase 1B study? For those of you who remember, the DOT has looked at this area before. In 2014, Phase 1A of the I-25 South Corridor study was completed. This previous study defined a purpose and need for the broader corridor. Following that, the DOT completed Phase 1B, which identified a preferred alternative for the overall corridor. Regarding the specific S-curve, the previous preferred alternative was not drastically different than what is there today. Since this previous study was completed in 2016, the S-curve has experienced reoccurring safety issues. This has prompted NMDOT to initiate the study and take a closer look at this specific section to identify a solution that improves safety and mobility. So that's how we got here. Conducting another Phase 1B study will look at the current conditions and gather new data. At this time, all options are on the table, including the previously identified preferred alternative. It's great for you to get involved now and stay involved throughout the study. As part of this new Phase 1B study, we have drafted a new purpose and need specific to the S-curve, which we'll be talking through in a few minutes. At the end of Phase 1B, we will identify a preferred alternative. Following that selection, the study will move into Phase 1C, which includes detailed environmental evaluation and environmental documentation of the preferred alternative. Overall, we anticipate the study to last about 2 years between Phase 1B and 1C. We have a couple of boards in the room describing the NMDOT process in more detail if you want to learn more about what happens in these phases. I do want to talk about our schedule briefly. Various formal comment periods will be occurring. The first is kicking off today. We will always take public comments. The formal comment period allows us to gather input that will be included in the study documentation. There will be multiple opportunities for public comments throughout the study. The next one is anticipated for spring 2024, when we have draft alternatives or concepts to share. If the study stays on schedule, we anticipate being complete in fall of 2025. Please stay involved and provide comments. The DOT is committed to involving the public in the process, and we want to hear your feedback. The schedule is also presented on the boards tonight and is also available on our website if you would like to review the details. With that, I'm going to hand it off to Nicole.
Thank you, Summer. So I want to start off by talking about the community and what we consider as part of the study. So what I'm going to show tonight is just some of the initial things that are being considered. It's hard to quantify all of the context within this community, between the schools, the hospitals, the neighborhood associations, the historic properties, and more. But we've started to identify things that contribute to the community. At Station 1, out here, you will see we have detailed maps. So when you talk to our team, tell us what we're missing. Go ahead and draw on the map or leave info as part of your comment. We really want to capture what's important within your community. Some of the key facilities that we're looking for are major employers, education services like grade schools or colleges, hospitals, and other community resources. So on the screen, we're showing just a few, but we recognize that there is so much more. So historic neighborhoods. This map outlines what the city has identified as a historic neighborhood. These designations typically align with the formal neighborhood association. So the NMDOT values the history and culture within the study area. And as you all know, there's so much here. The DOT understands the importance of honoring the heritage of the communities while meeting the transportation needs. We're also looking at environmental resources. So in this area in particular, there are aquatic resources, there are public parks, and there are historic properties. So we've gathered preliminary data to identify potentially historic buildings. And historic buildings are defined as buildings that are on or eligible for inclusion on the National Register of Historic Places. And they're generally at least 50 years old. And to be eligible for inclusion, a property needs to be considered significant in terms of its place or role in the patterns, trends, or events of our history. And like I've mentioned, we have maps depicting these resources at Station 1, so please take a look before you leave today. They'll also be available on our website. Okay, purpose and need. So one of the early things we do as part of a study is to draft a purpose and need. And a purpose and need simply describes the reason for the improvements or the reasons for a future project. So we have a draft purpose statement on the screen, and it covers 4 categories we've identified as the need. So the NMDOT is proposing to improve safety, address future travel demand, and replace aging infrastructure on I-25 between milepost 223 and 225, and to accommodate active transportation across the I-25 corridor. So why is this so important? Well, in order to identify a preferred alternative, the team will develop ideas and concepts and alternatives that will evaluate against the purpose and need. So if an alternative doesn't meet the purpose and need, if it doesn't address these transportation issues, then it doesn't move on for further evaluation. So it's important we get your feedback today on these transportation needs, as well as other needs that you may think be relevant. So in your surveys, you'll see questions around this. Okay, so safety. As Summer described earlier, safety is a big reason why we are studying this area again. So there's a need for roadway geometry improvements that will accommodate the appropriate design speed. There's a need to reduce crashes within the S-curve area. There's a need to reduce driver workload around the S-curve. So in this area, drivers need to merge, they need to weave, they need to stay in their lanes and navigate all at the same time. So reducing this driver workload will provide a safer driving experience. And at Station 1, we have crash data over the past 5 years that supports this need. Okay, so travel demand. As growth continues, especially regionally, I-25 will need to handle more vehicles during peak travel hours. Currently, during peak hours, you may see delays, which can be worse when a crash is involved. So the screen here shows congestion today during the afternoon peak travel hour, compared to what it would be like in 2050 if no improvements were made. So the data shows the need to accommodate this growth and plan ahead for it. At Station 1, we have maps showing the existing traffic data and the future traffic data in 2050 if no improvements are made. Next, infrastructure. This is a broad term in transportation. It includes bridges, pavement, barriers, drainage facilities, and more. So think about when you drive. Is the drive bumpy? Are there potholes that you try to avoid? When it rains, is there standing water in the roadway? So there's a need to improve infrastructure that has reached the end of its service life. This section of I-25 was constructed in the 1960s, and although some improvements have been made since then, aging infrastructure is something we need to consider in this study. And then finally, active transportation. Part of what we consider are demographics in the study area, and the data shows that an average of 16% of households don't have access to a car, meaning they're walking, biking, taking buses, or finding other ways to get to work, to school, or to shop in their communities. So this is something that we need to consider as we work towards a solution. So there's a need to accommodate alternative modes of travel across I-25 in accordance with the Mid-Region Council of Government Bikeway System Plan and Transit Network Plan. So at Station 5, you can learn more about the ideas we're considering at this stage. And in your survey packets, we have questions around these initial transportation needs and what you are currently experiencing as a driver or non-motorized user. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Mike to talk about our universe of ideas.
All right, thank you so much. Again, my name is Mike Worrell. Alonzo and I are going to be talking through what we've called the universe of ideas. At this point, they are really just ideas. There is nothing that's been defined or designed or any conclusions that have come to. They're basically ideas. And the point of these ideas is to solicit input and hear your opinions about them. I'm pretty sure there's at least one or two opinions in here, at least I think so. So awesome. And we want to hear all that. But what we're trying to describe with this universe of ideas is that the interstate corridor serves a number of functions. And there are different ways of addressing all of those functions. So number one, it carries traffic through the area, south of the study area and through north there, so it carries traffic through. Then with it being a main entry point, with this area being a main entry point into the Albuquerque Central Core, there is a need for people to get on and off the freeway to access that. So how people get on and off the freeway is another element of what we're considering. And then beyond that, there is the exchange of how, once those people are on or off the freeway, how they access the city streets and get to the local network and get to where they're ultimately going or where they're coming from. And then there is a very important feature, particularly in this area, is non-motorized transportation, whether that be bicycles or pedestrians or other. And each one of the cross streets that cross this project through the I-25 corridor through the project area have some form of bicycle or pedestrian facility, and then there are future plans to improve many of those areas in the future. So how we accommodate that and address that is important as everything else. So those different categories that I just walked through include what we call the alignment, I-25 alignment. And when we all refer to the S-curve, we're talking about the alignment of I-25, the curves that you experience. So there are ideas or options available to address that and improve that situation. I talked about non-motorized transportation. Alonzo's got a number of different treatments. And again, it's really, at this point, meant to solicit input and get your feedback on those things. There's really nothing formed with regard to that. We talked about the surface street accessibility and then the accessibility on and off the freeway. So starting with the I-25 alignment, when we show these drawings, they're really not meant to convey a design or any conclusions. They're really meant to convey an idea and, again, solicit your feedback. The freeway could be straightened by shifting part of the alignment to the west. That's an option. The alignment could be straightened by shifting part of the alignment to the east, or it could be something in the middle. Really, these lines that are up on the screen really don't represent anything conclusive, just really only meant to depict those ideas. The next, I'm going to kind of describe a number of ways that people get on and off the freeway and how that functions, because like I said, in this particular area, there's a big need for accessibility into the key parts of Albuquerque. Everybody's kind of used to the classic interchange style with on and off ramps. If you Sunport, for example, or Avenida Cesar Chavez interchange, those are kind of classic style diamond interchanges, very conventional. You see a lot of them around the country. The treatments that we could consider here are improving those ramps, lengthening them, providing more length for sight distance, acceleration, deceleration, matching speeds, all of that. I think people are familiar with the concept, and if you're not, we can get into it more. The concept of braided ramps. There's actually a couple of examples of braided ramps within the study area. For instance, as you're going southbound and you're going on, extending south of Central, and you go over top of as you're getting on the freeway, you go over top of the off ramp to Lead. That's a braided ramp. Likewise, on the opposite side, if you're getting off to go to Lomas, you go over top of the on-ramp from Martin Luther King, another braided ramp. So examples of those in a number of areas of town. So that's another approach. And then another thing that probably everyone is familiar with is a system of one-way frontage roads. And that system is used to provide accessibility in more of a focused way from the freeway and provide local access through the city street network and provide a number of different access points along that. The last one, which I don't believe there's an example of in Albuquerque, I think there are a number of examples in El Paso for those of you that get down that way. They're called collector distributor roads. Those are similar to frontage roads, but they're higher speed. There's no access to them directly. There's actually, it's like a secondary form of road on the side that you have a higher speed exit from the freeway, and then it operates at higher speed, and then there's a system of exchanging ramps on and off to the local street network. Don't know whether any or all of these are appropriate, but they're ideas. And I believe with that, Alonzo.
Thanks, Mike. So as part of this universe of ideas that we've been talking about this evening, surface street accessibility is one of the categories. Think about how you enter or exit I-25. So surface streets within the study area are considered to be Avenida Cesar Chavez, Cole Avenue, Lead Avenue, Central Avenue, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue, and Lomas Boulevard. To improve surface street accessibilities, we plan to look at 3 different options, ideas here. Similar to what Mike discussed, we're going to be looking at one-way frontage roads. One-way frontage roads are a way to provide access to properties and surface streets while separating the local accessing traffic from the through traffic. So this particular idea could help in 2 of our categories. We will also be looking at increasing intersection capacity. We're not entirely sure what this will look like. We have an example here where this particular intersection, we had additional through lanes. The idea here is to add, to improve capacity at the intersections through signal improvements, additional lanes, auxiliary lanes, in efforts to reduce congestion, reduce crashes. And another idea we're going to be looking at for improving accessibility to surface streets is to increase the number of travel lanes. We also not entirely sure what this will look like right now. It could be adding lanes in a single or multiple directions. More lanes will be able to accommodate more vehicles on the roadway. So the last category that we have for the universe of ideas is non-motorized transportation. And I just want to reiterate that these are in no particular order of importance. We believe all of our 4 categories in the universe of ideas have the same equal of importance. So what is non-motorized transportation? It's any mode of transportation that doesn't include motorized vehicle. This could mean walking, cycling. It'll vary by individual. As population grows, we really need to look at how individuals are getting to and from their destination. Like Nicole mentioned earlier, within the study area, there's about 60% of the population that don't have access to motor transportation. So the non-motorized transportation has to be part of our solution. For this, we plan to look at 5 different options to improve in this category. Perhaps one of the options you're most familiar with are sidewalks. It is critical that sidewalks are built to proper width to provide safety for users and provide accessibility for handicapped users at ramps at intersections. We will also look at bike lanes, very familiar within the corridor, usually adjacent to the traveled way, separated by signage and pavement markings. This allows the cyclists to travel at their desired speed with less impact or less interference between the cyclists and the motor traffic. We will also look at shared use paths. This is something that's becoming more common, typically concreted or paved area, wide enough to allow travel in both directions. They typically have pavement markings as well. And we're going to take this option a step further and look at the feasibility of providing additional safety for the non-motorized user by introducing a barrier separated here. And the last option, idea that we're going to be looking at for improving transportation for the non-motorized user will be a grade separated crossing. We don't know what this will look like. It could be a form of a tunnel or an overpass bridge. We'll be looking at this closer. So this concludes what we're calling our universe of ideas. If you haven't already, there should be survey packets around. In that survey packet, each one of these categories are on there, and we are asking for feedback on each and every one of them. So any feedback would be greatly appreciated. As you all have seen in the other room, we have stations also for each of these categories of the universe of ideas. I think we're going to move forward here with the Q&A, and we'll stick around if there's any additional questions that you can come talk to us at those individual stations. And with that, I'll hand it over to Francine.
Thank you, everybody. That was a lot of information. So before we get started with our Q&A, I do want to provide some information about our public comments and how to stay involved after today. So as you've seen, today kicks off our formal comment period, which will be open through December 17th. So the question is, how do you submit a formal comment? So we want to make sure that we capture all of the input, all of the community's feedback, all of the stakeholders' feedback. So you can submit a formal comment today in person, in multiple ways via a comment form, a survey packet, or via the Q&A session we're getting ready to host. If you do not feel like leaving a comment today or you don't want to ask one publicly, again, you can visit our website at I-25scurve.com and fill out the survey there, or the comment form, which will be posted tomorrow, November 16th. You may also email your questions, your comments, or your feedback to study@I25scurve.com. You may also call us on our hotline, and you may also send us some snail mail if you prefer, so you can see that the address is up on the screen right now. Whichever venue you do prefer, I want to point out a couple of things, is that if you do need assistance, if you need Spanish translation or you prefer to ask a question, go ahead and also let us know around the room today. We have our interpreters who will be able to ask the questions if you need it in Spanish. Also, you may call our hotline and request it in Spanish, and we can respond to you. Mail us a comment. Whatever your venue is, I do want to point out, please make sure that you get your comments to us no later than December 17th while our comment period is open. So now that we've covered how do we submit a public comment, how do you stay engaged? Because as you know, in all this information that our team presented, the study is going to be very thorough and it's going to be a very robust study, so we want you to stay engaged. When you came in tonight, you signed in on our sign-in sheet and it asked how we can communicate you or contact you. You can also learn how to stay engaged on the comment form. Again, if you visit our website, it will give you the option to sign up for updates throughout the study via email and text messages. And once again, you can also utilize our hotline and our email. So now we're going to go ahead and transition over into our Q&A session.